There was once something called a gentleman. What happened to the gentleman? The gentleman was someone who was revered, who was so adored, who was glorified. I used to think that harmlessness and gentleness, being a gentleman, means you never got in any confrontation. That's not what it means at all. And this is where I'm deeply misunderstanding this teaching. It's you stop tolerating it, which means you do the work to heal yourself. That also means when you see harm, when you encounter somebody being abused, when you encounter a woman being beaten in the street or an animal being struck, you have the power to stand up and say absolutely not, and you put yourself in harm's way to defend yourself as the way of harmlessness and gentleness. We are the problem, and it's until we actually go in and heal the parts of us that are still trapped, causing violence, abuse, aggression, and until we awaken to realize we have stepped off the path of being gentlemen, until we step into that role of actually becoming safe people, we're not going to see this planet thrive. Today we're talking about the way of harmlessness and gentleness. Now, this is a really pivotal way for us as men. Why? Because in this world, in this patriarchal world that we've been brainwashed to grow up in, we have become the harmful ones. We have become the abusers. We generally are the ones that are creating the destruction, the abuse, the violence, the oppression. It's us as men. We're the problem. And the sooner that we can enter into a state of awareness of realizing that we are the problem, and it's until we actually go in and heal the parts of us that are still trapped, causing violence, abuse, aggression, and are vibrating at that level, until we step into that role of actually becoming safe people, we're not going to see this planet thrive. We're not going to see any sort of harmony. We can't advance as a humanity. We can't evolve as a species. We can't evolve our consciousness until we're willing to look at all the places that we're not safe and we don't cause harm. And it's really easy to look out into the world and say, oh, it's them, oh, it's this peep. It's harder to actually become that first way of oneness, the way of responsibility, and say, you know what, I'm going to take accountability for me, right? And that's what these ways are all about, is showing us a way that we can actually become divinity in human form, become our soul, our true soul self, and what that actually vibrates as through our human physical vessel. And to become that in this lifetime, that's what these ways are. And the way of harmlessness and gentleness is about learning how to become exactly that. Now, there was once something called a gentleman's. Where do you think that came from? I think about this all the time. What happened to the gentleman? The gentleman was someone who was revered, who was so adored, who was glorified. And the more and more and more that patriarchy has done what it does and influenced this planet and influenced this society, and especially here in the West, the more that it has put its dominating, controlling, misogynistic tentacles into our system and poured its energy and its consciousness through our veins and mind controlled and brainwashed us to then co-create from this lower level. And until we awaken to realize we have stepped off the path of being gentlemen. And part of the brainwashing is that's a bad thing. That I can't be gentle because I have to exert alpha dominance. I have to be the alpha man. I have to be the one in control. I have to be the one in charge. Right? This is everything that we've been brainwashed to be. It's all absolute bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. We don't have to be pathetic, soft, weak people. We don't have to be that. And we can actually be powerful, have inner strength, have the ability to go into our weaknesses and still be very soft and gentle at the same time. Now, we've lost the ability to hold two opposing ideas within inside our own selves. That's been brainwashed out of us through a consciousness called duality. So duality is either this or it's that. And it's really important to understand this when we're starting to become what it is that Rachel's teaching about as the way of harmlessness and gentleness. Because if I just think gentleness is this one thing, that it's soft and weak, and it's not anything else, it's not the opposite to that, then I'm going to resist being gentle and harmless. Because in this world, what we've been brainwashed to think is, well, in order to succeed, I have to be strong. And if I'm strong, I can't show any weakness. If I'm strong, I can't be gentle. In oneness consciousness, and this is something I've get lessons time and time again from Rachel, there is infinite potentials when you live in oneness. So the way of harmlessness and gentleness is what these are ways of being, right? These 20 ways that she's brought to this earth, these are ways of being that we can become. It isn't just this thing. It isn't just I show up gentle, super gentle all of the time. The way of harmlessness and gentleness is I don't consent to harm, and that means I, within inside myself, need to stop consenting to, one, the places that I have caused harm. Where I still, number two, cause harm. I have to be willing to look at those. And then I will hold others to that same standard. And when I did the activation this morning, it was so beautiful. And it took me, I actually did it twice because what I was receiving was so profound. It was it was healing so much and actually clearing out a lot of intensity that I've been feeling over this weekend. And it brought me to a younger version of me. And it brought me to a relationship I had when I was a teenager. And what would happen when I was a teenager was that I would drink a lot of alcohol because this was my coping strategy. There's also kind of societal brainwashed norms of how I thought I was supposed to go out and have fun is just get absolutely leathered and wasted, just get so drunk. And I had no off switch. I would just keep drinking and drinking and drinking. And at that time, I would drink to the point that there was no holding back what wanted to flow through me. What was in there that I was unaware of at the time was all of this hatred, this deep hatred towards the feminine, especially my mother. I didn't know that that's what I was feeling. But when I would get drunk, I would get so intoxicated, I would start screaming at my girlfriend. And we'd get in these massive arguments, and I'd wake up the next day, and it was like I had a sense that I'd done it. I had a sense that I'd done something wrong. I had a sense that I had messed up. But I couldn't fully remember what had happened because I was so intoxicated. And when I say this, I'm not saying this to create any excuses at all in any way. Actually, the way of harmlessness and gentleness is the opposite of that. It's saying, and this is what I was doing in this activation this morning, I take accountability and responsibility for where I cause harm. And I would get so intoxicated, it was like all of the buffers that I was holding back, that I was not allowing myself to see, that inside of me there was this deep well of anger and pain, and all I had been brainwashed to do is blame women. Blame it on the woman. And this is patriarchal misogyny. Textbook. So when I would get really drunk, that part of me that was in there, that I had not healed, I had not transformed, there was nothing holding it back. And this is where you open yourself up, susceptible to entities coming in and, flowing through you. And when you see drunk people, and that's what's happening there. That's 100% what happened to me. And again, I'm not by any means devoiding responsibility by saying that. I'm consenting to allow this level of my hatred and anger, my trapped consciousness, the pain that's in there. I'm allowing that to flow through me, and I'm choosing to project it outwardly. Is there also outside influences? Probably. But this is what was in me. This is my responsibility. I just didn't even know that that truly existed in me because I had trapped it and locked it away so dark and far away in my psyche that in my everyday life, I was like, I would never do that. Why would I do that? I don't feel that way. And over the last 5 years of learning this work, I've uncovered these parts of me that feel this way. And the more inner power that I've collected and gained and opened up to, the more that I've done that, I've found these parts of me that are just so angry. And what I learned to do is project that anger outwardly at women, at my partner. And this is the deep, deep, deep pain that I have about my mum leaving this is what that part of me says, when my parents divorced. And then I grew up with my dad. And it's that powerless part of me that thinks, I need you in my life. It's very selfish. I need you in my life. There's obviously elements of truth to it. When you are young, you do need your parents. But at 6 years old, I felt like I needed her because I was so attached to her. I felt like I needed her love. I needed all this stuff from her. I needed her validation. I needed her coddling. I needed her pity. I needed her sympathy. She was the only one that would give me that. My dad wasn't giving me that, right? She would give me all this. She would give me elements of what I thought was love and attachment, right? So I felt like I needed all that. So when she remarried and went away, I then didn't have that, and I didn't know what to do with the pain of that loss and that grief and the powerlessness that was in there, that, oh my God, now I don't have this supply of feminine energy that I can just, withdraw from. Now I don't have a woman I'm going to sit there and she's going to listen to me. I've lost all of that. And because I've lost all of that and I don't know how to be with that pain, well, what am I going to do? Well, in this world, men are taught to blame women for their problems. We are taught in this realm to blame the feminine, to blame the creator. And that is the entire trap that we're all fucked with. Is that we've learned to blame the very thing that is there to create and sustain life. And instead of me tapping into my feminine energy, because I'm missing that or lacking that for whatever reason, I'm then going out and trying to take it from, in this case, mother, right? Or receive it from her, in this case also girlfriend. And because I don't have it, I'm getting angry and I'm blaming them for my problems. So what I've had to do over the past 5 years is learn how to energetically go in, take responsibility and accountability for that, and actually see those really deep misogynistic, powerless programs that I run. And this all stems back to where I, as a man, am severed off from feminine energy. Because the truth is if I am fully whole and I have found all the parts of me that feel like they need something outside of me, they need feminine. Of course they do. We all need feminine. She is the one that gives and maintains and sustains life. We all need that. But we have to learn, and this is what the process of divine maturation is, we have to learn how to get that from within inside our own selves. And that's not something that we know how to do. That's not something that I was taught. I was not taught that as a child on how to actually get feminine energy from within inside my own self. And so this is where this video is never about blaming my parents. They did not know how to do this. So how could they teach me, right? I'm learning this right now. And that's why I'm sharing this video with the world, is because this is what we need to do, especially as men. Because we are men, we grow up, or we are energetically, we have less feminine power. So this path is a little bit longer. Because we're further away from what she is. So we have more work to do to catch up. We have more work to do to reclaim that power and find it within inside ourselves. We're more susceptible to the severing and the brainwashing that we've gone through. We're more susceptible to the mind control because we're less connected to feminine. We're less connected to her. We're less connected to the one that gives birth and sustains all life, the true source creator, she. So because we lack this feminine power, we learn to get angry and blame the one who has it, women. And so this, I know that was a lot, but this is what would come out of me. And this was all because I lacked harmlessness and gentleness within inside my own self. Whenever I would look for that energy, I would go to my mother, and a lot of the time what I would receive instead would be coddling. It wouldn't actually be the way of harmlessness. Sometimes it would, right? But it would be a lot of coddling weakness instead of the divine feminine power frequency of harmlessness and gentleness. And that frequency, as I activated it twice this morning, is very, very powerful. And when I can learn how to activate that within inside my own self, I no longer need it. And therefore I no longer need to get angry at anyone else for me not having it. And so this morning, as I activated this way, I was connecting with my partner as a teenage self, her soul. And I was honoring her and apologizing to her for all of the harm that I created, because I lacked this level of divine nurturing. I did not have the ability to nurture my own emotional pain, my own emotional wounds, my own powerlessness, my own weakness. I did not have that ability as a teenager or as a child. But I am learning how to do it now. And in the process of learning how to do it now, it's also, oh man, like certain experiences will come up in your past, just like this particular instance as a teenager. And it's as simple as, oh, this is here, let me embrace it and flow with it. And as the tears flooded down my face, as I was honoring the soul and apologizing without making any excuses, without making any justifications, or even needing to explain myself. That kept on coming up this morning, wanting to explain to her soul. And it was, no, you don't need to do any of that, Danny. All you need to do right now is honor, become the way of harmlessness and gentleness, and honor the pain that you created and the pain that you have. And so that is what I did. And that is what this process is all about. And these are the energetic shifts in consciousness that then stop or elevate me and everyone, right? When we choose to do this work to a frequency band where we stop consenting to allow people to create this level of pain and suffering on the planet. And this comes to the next thing I just want to finish with, which is, I used to think that harmlessness and gentleness, being a gentle man, means you never got in any confrontation. That's not what it means at all. And this is where I'm deeply misunderstanding this teaching. It's you stop tolerating it, which means you do the work to heal yourself. That also means when you see harm, when you encounter somebody being abused, when you encounter a woman being beaten in the street or an animal being struck, you have the power to stand up and say absolutely not, and you put yourself in harm's way to defend yourself as the way of harmlessness and gentleness. This was a teaching that I have had to come back to again and again and again from Rachel to fully absorb it. And the truth is that you can't fully understand these things from the level of mind until you energetically become it. And then you start to feel the warrior frequency flow through you, which isn't, I'm going to go out and kill you. It's, I'm willing to put my life on the line to defend you. That is the feminine. That can only come from the feminine. This is what we as men need to learn on this planet. Why? Look around on the planet, the amount of beings that are being abused and harmed and tortured and killed and genocide, whether that's animals, what we're talking about, whether that's fish in the ocean, whether that's human beings, all of it. All these sentient beings that are being abused and slaughtered and killed on a daily basis all over the planet. All of the rape and the torture. It's everywhere. If we as men were naturally vibrating at that frequency, or this was our natural state of being, right? That we naturally become these protectors, we wouldn't see all of this. So this is where we have to learn from women. We have to learn how to tap into our own feminine power so we can put an end to the harm that exists on the planet. And that's what the eighth way of oneness is all about, is putting an end, zero tolerance for the harm that is created on the planet. And that starts not by trying to go out and save the world and be the defender and the protector. It starts by us individually raising our level of consciousness to vibrate at that frequency by going in and doing the deep inner work of finding, here are all the ways that I have created harm in my life. Here are all the ways that I still show up harmful, abusive, violent. Here are all the ways that I lack harmlessness and gentleness in my life. And I can go in, do the work, energetically heal, raise my level of consciousness and start to vibrate at that frequency. And then this is where I live my life from. Now, if you want to join if you want to join a group of men who are doing this, we have a men's group at MSU. We meet up 5 p.m. PST on Tuesday nights. And I'm sure everyone else there, would love for you to come join if you are a man. If you're a woman and you're listening to this, we also have a women's group. You can check that out. I'm addressing the men specifically today because that's what I am. So we would love for you to come join. We would love for you to do this level of deep inner work. We meet every Tuesday. And there'll be a link in the description below if you would like to come join. I'll see you tomorrow for the Way of Equality.